Hey guys, it's Jason here. Welcome back to the channel and welcome to the video. Today we're going to be checking out the Rlaarlo 8K917. Now, the car's been out for about a year. There's quite a bit of videos on it, so I've got a lot to go off of because I am by no means, guys, a on-road or high-speed sort of guy. I'm more of a basher, but I thought this would be kind of fun to build a car that would either maybe max out, let's say, at something like 100 miles an hour, but get there very quick and be very efficient. But then after that, maybe start trying to kind of push the levels. You know, maybe next aim for like a 125. I've seen some guys that are doing 150, 175. Now, they really know what they're doing. They've got a lot of experience, and I am not those guys. I do not want to be, you know, the novice that comes in and tries to hit 150 miles an hour right out of the box, because that's not going to work. But either way, guys, let's get into this thing and check it out. Now, before we even get into the car, I just wanted to quickly talk about, guys, the packaging and the case that the Rlaarlo comes in, because just like with my RadioLink radio, instead of the car coming in that, you know, normal box with styrofoam and the fancy artwork, it comes in a case that you can actually use. This one's even got zippers, just like my RadioLink one, so that when you're going out, especially with something like an on-road car, a high-speed car that you're going to be setting up and you're going to want everything to stay tight, unlike our bashers that we just throw in our truck beds and stuff like that, this car you're going to want to stay, you're not going to want it bouncing around and possibly wrecking something, because there are obviously smaller parts, guys, on something like this. So it's going to be nice that you're going to set this thing up, put it into the case, zip it down, put it in your car, and it's going to be safe. I think this is the way to go. I'm so over all the boxes and the styrofoam. I recently threw out a bunch of boxes and the styrofoam took a giant garbage bag just to get rid of it. So very, very, guys, impressed with this. But I do really want to see how this car looks, because as of right now, guys, I haven't seen it. I have not opened it or anything. And oh man, guys, the blue and the orange looks crazy. Hopefully that's coming across on camera. I went with the blue and orange one, obviously, because I kind of like it. It's sort of got a bit of that Gulf blue sort of delivery going on. Some of you guys will know what I'm talking about, the gas oil company. I really dig these two colors together. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to skip over, guys, actually taking everything out of the package, because I just want to see the car. All right, guys, this thing, these colors look wicked. Oh yeah. I really like the body on this car because it's kind of got a bit of a retro thing going on here with just the way the buckets are and stuff. And actually, I haven't powered it up yet or anything, guys, but I do believe that these are actually all working lights, the headlights, and there's some lights in the back. So we're going to obviously be checking that out. But yeah, this thing looks pretty sick. Now, I do not often spend time going over the manual or anything like that when I get a new car or truck. However, when I was pulling everything out and I actually saw the manual, I was kind of like, you know what, there's a lot of stuff going on here. So I'm going to quickly go over it. You can kind of see what's in front of us, but the biggest things are, it does come with this little included USB charger. It's for a 2S pack. Personally, guys, I'll never use this, but if you were buying this car and you were new to RC and you wanted to get into these cars, they do include everything to get you running. It even includes a 2S 3300 milliamp pack, which is in the car. I'll get that out later. The transmitter is also something that I will not be using. However, because I'm going to be using my RC8X with the gyro and all that kind of fun stuff, this actually, guys, feels pretty good. The tension in the trigger isn't bad. You got a nice little brake caliper kind of going on here. Overall, it does actually feel better than a lot of the RTR radios that I've tried kind of in the past, or I've actually hardly ever used them, but just kind of when I do like an unboxing and I check them out, this actually feels pretty good. You got your steering trims, your limiting switches and all that kind of stuff, your reversing switches, your power button. Overall, not a bad radio. I may actually hang on to this one. Usually I sell all my RTR radios, but I may hang on to this just for like a car for my kids or something like that. You've got in here, you've got a high-speed pinion. I don't know what it is right now, but you do have a high-speed pinion, and you got a whole bunch of spurs to choose from. So again, kind of neat that they included those. It'll be interesting to see how the plastic holds out. I'm thinking that their process is that because you're not doing this, like bashing, you probably would be okay with these. Either way, we're going to be obviously, guys, running the plastic spurs and checking them out. You got a little toolkit with some Allen wrenches, your little T-wrench there. But what I thought was kind of cool was they give you this one sheet, and trying to make sure there's no glare. It's got a lot of cool stickers in it. I really kind of like this. I think this is a neat thing to add. Hopefully I can kind of show you guys. They got kind of a bit of a funky kind of thing going on with them. Really, really cool. And the other thing I noticed, and I didn't realize this until I took this sheet out, that these white kind of circles are actually stickers. Now, again, I understand why they went for this because I know what they're kind of going for with this car. However, I am probably going to take these off and just stick with like the paint, the blue, the light blue, the orange, and all that kind of stuff. Because personally, I kind of like that look better. So these will probably come off. And we've also got their speed challenge. Now, this is for the 2023 one. I know there's a 2024 coming up right now. I don't know if I'm going to take part in it just because I don't feel like I'm ready for that. But either way, we'll see. It's got a lot of option parts in here for the 917, metal spurs, pinions, motors, all that kind of fun stuff. And I did see this, guys, online. I saw a few pictures of this. Hopefully I'm not getting too much glare there. A crazy manual. I know that talking about a manual and going into details on the paper quality and stuff like that seems kind of ridiculous when it comes to an RC car. But this actually, guys, is done really well. Probably better than any other company's manual right now. There's a lot of thought. I actually was kind of going through it off camera there, and it's got a lot of details, a lot of good stuff in it. So it's definitely one of the ones you want to hold on to. Again, guys, my thoughts on the car is it looks wicked. The colors look awesome. And I think it's really, really neat that they included aluminum wheels. Just something you don't see very often. I remember back, guys, I'm talking probably 15 years ago, I had a TC3 and I had bought Hardcore Racing aluminum rims for it. They were anodized green or blue now. I don't remember. And that was such a cool thing. So I think it is neat that they have them on here. I'll probably be changing these out at some point, running foam tires, because I hear that's what you're supposed to run on these things to get maximum traction. But in the beginning, I will be using these. The body feels really rigid. It's not as thin or as easy to flex as I thought it would be. It actually feels pretty good. It feels pretty like tight in here. I mean, yes, when you start moving, this is going to flare out, but I was still kind of surprised at the quality of the body. It seems to be definitely thick. You've got a fan right here. I'm assuming it's an exhaust fan to kind of pull some of the heat out from the car. Oh man, that looks so wicked. There's that 3,300 milliamp pack, guys, I was talking about. Okay, I gotta stay back. I gotta stay on track here. So yeah, you got your headlight buckets here. You got your fan, and I just want to see if there is something going on in the back of the car. Yeah, there is. There seems to be LEDs in the little exhaust tips here, and actually up here, guys. So you know what? We're gonna fire this up soon because I do want to see the headlights. But man, guys, that looks awesome. Oh, and the one thing I have not covered yet is that, yes, this car comes in both an aluminum chassis and a carbon fiber chassis. You can see I got the carbon fiber one. So you have the carbon fiber lower and the carbon fiber upper deck. That, holy man, this is a good looking car, guys. And the one thing too, the other color for the 917 is like a red and black body. And what's neat is if you get that one, you get red anodizing, where with the orange and blue, you get orange anodizing. And I was kind of poking around on Rlaarlo's website for quite a bit, and they do have a ton of option parts for this. So we're going to definitely, guys, be having some fun with this car. But again, I'm just going to bring that up, guys, to the camera because that thing looks sick. ST60 connector, which is really nice. Yeah, this thing is pretty dope. Okay, guys, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a minute. I'm going to clip this off and just kind of clean things up a little bit. And then we're going to get into some of the details about the electronics and everything else on this car. Now, moving on to the electronics, you have a Rlaarlo brand ESC motor and steering servo. The ESC is good for 2 to 4S. It's 120 amp speed control, 6 amp BEC at 5 amps. Which is pretty much, guys, your standard 4S ESC. However, the motor is a 3900 kV, so high kV, lots of RPMs, but if you do the math, this thing is not going to want to see 4S. So even though you might have a 4S ESC, at 3900 kV, 3S is going to reach your max RPM. So I definitely, guys, don't recommend going to a 4S on this motor. The ESC will handle it, but the motor won't. The steering servo, I am not 100% sure of. When I was on the website, they had one on there that I think was 23 kilograms. Now, I have fired up the car, just kind of down here, guys, just to make sure everything was working. And the one thing I can say is when I had everything plugged in and I was kind of, adjusting the steering, I did kind of just put my hand or my finger sort of on the tire and I was kind of turning it, and there is a ton of force here. So it might possibly, guys, be a 23 kilogram steering servo, which is great that if that's what they included, because a lot of people will overlook it in a 1/10 scale car that they don't need, like a big torquey servo. However, when you've got something like this doing 60, 70, 80 miles an hour plus, and it's, imagine the guys, this thing right now flying along on pavement, you've got a lot of force on these front tires. And if you don't have a strong servo, these things are just going to be all over the place. So having a nice torquey servo, and even guys just feeling it here right now, besides guys from the servo, is just how tight the steering is. It's very solid. It's not very sloppy at all. It's actually, guys, pretty much not sloppy at all, which is a really nice plus for something like a on-road high-speed car like this. Now, the only other thing, guys, I should mention too, I just kind of thought of it, was the radio. So the receiver, you can see here, is very, very busy. You obviously have your channels for your speed controller and your servo, and actually I think one of them is for the fan on the ESC, but you also have all these right here for your LEDs. These are just kind of like your power and negative. There's no like system switch or wire or anything on it. And the one thing I noticed while I was kind of looking over the car, and I'll show you guys that soon, is the radio that comes with the car. I'm going to power it up here for a second, has these two channels on here. Now, the one thing is when you power this thing up, I don't know what channel 3 does. I keep pressing it, nothing happens. But when you have the lights from the body, the front buckets plugged in down here, this will actually control your front lights. So I'm going to show that, guys, later on. But if anybody right now knows what this does, please let me know in the comments, because I've had it all plugged in. I've tried things and I can't get it to do anything. I thought it was going to be for that top fan, the one that's attached to the body, but that was not the case. So either way, if somebody knows what this does, please let me know. Now, I went ahead and removed the wheels and tires just so that you guys could get a good look at all the orange anodized aluminum bits on this car. Aluminum is everywhere, and I love the fact that even something as simple as this kind of riser here going from the front bulkhead up to that upper top plate is anodized orange as well. You can see we've got the servo horn in here. You've got the Ackerman plate. Your hinge pin blocks, guys, your A to D blocks are also all orange anodized. You have the calipers. These guys are obviously plastic right here, your actual discs, but I like the fact that this, actually, guys, I'm pretty sure it feels like it's aluminum. So they kind of even just added this. You can see it spins in there. It's all properly. This isn't fixed or anything like that. I like that they added that kind of touch. You have front and rear carbon fiber shock towers on this version. So again, you can get the aluminum chassis version. So you'd have the aluminum chassis and the aluminum shock towers. You have front and rear sway bars. The shocks, guys, themselves are also fully aluminum. I'm not 100% sure, guys, on the whole dampening when it comes to cars like this. I know that you want something semi-stiff because you don't want it kind of bouncing all over the road. And this feels pretty good, very smooth front and the rear. And the one thing I do need to comment on right now is, and I think I've mentioned it already in the video, is just how tight this car is. It feels very dialed in. It's not sloppy at all. And between the bell cranks, the steering servo, and all that stuff, I'm really hoping that this thing, guys, stays straight. Now, I'm not referring to the setup part of it and all that kind of stuff. I just mean that everything is nice and solid. And like I keep mentioning, guys, it's not sloppy or anything like that. And that definitely, guys, feels really good. All right, what I want to do now is something I wanted to show you guys since the beginning, and that is firing up the car and showing you guys all the lights. So the headlights, the tail lights, those exhaust lights and how they work, because it definitely, guys, is a neat function and option on this car. It's the one thing that actually kind of keeps me from probably swapping in a radio link receiver right away, because I'm going to want to just see this thing out. I'm going to want to go out, when it gets later at night, not necessarily dark, but just as it starts to get later, as it starts to get a little bit dark, and just to see all the lights working on this. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to close those blinds, shut the lights off, and show you guys exactly how everything works. All right, now I've worked with a couple of lights, guys, to try to make this have the least amount of noise. I tried a couple of times and it was definitely kind of yucky and stuff like that. So hopefully this looks good this time around. I'm going to power up the car first. And at least looking at the screen, it does look pretty good now. So on the transmitter, I mentioned earlier that you have these two top buttons here. I still don't know what this one does, but when you hit this one, that's your headlights. And that looks so wicked because it's nice because they're actually in like buckets. So it looks proper. And what I'm going to do now though, is I'm going to go around to the back. And I'd mentioned again, guys, earlier on about the flame tune. So as soon as you let off the trigger, you get those little burbles, you get those little kind of flames coming out of the exhaust. I think that's really cool. You have a brake as well as signal lights. So again, you got the flame tune coming out the exhaust and brakes, signal lights, and then you spin this bad boy around. And again, with the transmitter, love it. That looks awesome. Now I know some of you hardcore guys have probably already picked up on that I removed the white circles. Those were stickers. They're attached to the car from factory, even though the sheet itself is still in the box and there's other stickers available. But I personally, guys, I just like this clean look better. I get that those circles, those, you're supposed to put numbers on them, is kind of a, iconic thing with the Golf Blue delivery. But for me, I just prefer not to have them. I like the look of this car. I like the paint scheme. I like the blue and orange. So I prefer it without. So I went ahead and removed those. Now we are going to go over just a few more things, guys, on the car, and then we're going to wrap it up. Now, the last few things I wanted to go over was, one, the battery tray. So the battery tray, guys, is your normal battery tray. It just kind of clamps down, throw a body pin in it, and you're good to go. But what is nice is that these holes right here, they include them in the chassis. Those are for your included Velcro straps. So if you were putting in a taller battery, you can get rid of the clamp and just use the Velcro straps. By the way, this is the included Rlaarlo 3300 milliamp 2S 35C discharge rate pack that, again, is included with the kit. But the battery tray itself, guys, has these pretty big foam blocks in here. They're almost about 1/4 of an inch thick. So if you were running a battery that was a little higher, you could remove those and still try to use this clamp and not go with the Velcro straps. But the other nice thing is, if you were running a longer battery, as long as it kind of fits in between the bell cranks right here, and then obviously the back over here, even though you got a lot of space right here. But either way, as long as you were fitting a battery in here that would fit lengthwise, you could just remove all this, even if it sat a little bit out onto the edge. I understand you want to keep the battery, you want everything as close to center as you can get. But if you were running something that was just bigger, wider, all that kind of stuff, you could remove this whole battery tray system, use the Velcro straps, some Velcro, and you'd be good to go. So I really like this, guys. I think this is a nice setup for a battery tray. I do have a Genzace 3S pack en route. I have lots of Genzace 3S batteries, but they're all too long, except for this little guy. So this is kind of one of my 3S crawler batteries. It's 3S, 4300 milliamps, 60C discharge rate, but it is high voltage. So what's kind of nice is this is going to give us a little extra boost for when we first get out and running. The first run with this car, we'll run the included 2S. We'll get everything kind of dialed in, make sure my trims are good, that the car's going straight, kind of find a line to drive down and stuff like that. We will take a speed run at that. I don't expect all that much, but then we'll switch over, guys, to this 3S pack, and then we'll be able to get an idea more of what this thing does out of the box on 3S. Now, last, guys, was just related to the radio and the LEDs, because if my first thought, guys, was to swap the radio right away like I do with every car. I switch over to a radio link receiver. I even bought the newer 8-channel one that they have out right now with the crazy range and the dual antennas and all that kind of stuff. But if you want to keep things the way this car is with the LEDs and all that stuff, you'd either have to switch to a whole bunch of like Y adapters and stuff like that to run all the LEDs, or keep the included receiver. For the first few runs, I'm going to keep it this way. I'm going to use the stock radio. I think this is good for 150 meters. And with, with speed runs, you're pretty much always in line of sight. So as long as there's no crazy interference around you type thing, you should be good to go. But at some point, and this is where I'm kind of stuck right now, I sort of want to start with a roller as well. So keep this car the way it is, keep it with the LEDs, all that kind of fun stuff, but then maybe build up a dual motor roller, because yes, Rlaarlo actually has a dual motor kit. You're not looking at going to some aftermarket company or anything like that. They have it. So I'm kind of excited about that. I'm not sure what I'm going to do, but again, I will be working with this car, pinions, spurs, all that kind of fun stuff. And then as I get past that and I'm looking for kind of the next level, the next, top speed sort of thing that I'm going to, I may consider, guys, a roller and start fresh. All right, guys, there you have it. The Rlaarlo AK917, the carbon fiber ready to run edition. Pumped, guys, for getting this thing out. Now, saying that, my first run is going to be off camera. I'm going to go out. I'm just going to check over my trims, all that stuff, make sure it's tracking straight, make sure there's no surprises or anything like that in the car. Then after all that's done, that's when I will bring the camera with me and I'll start doing some runs. I'm going to take it out, guys, the first time probably on 2S and 3S. That way you'll know what you get out of the box with the included 2S. And then once we switch to the 3S, that's when I'll start making some changes with the spurs and the pinions and all that stuff. I don't know where this car is going to go. If you have not been able to tell yet, I've been all over the place with this video, because I know I've mentioned at one point that it would be fun to use that big 6400 kV that was in my drag car, drop that in this and see what I can do with it. As well as, guys, I have so many motors and KVs, 2200, 2250, 2400, all over the place, that I could really have, guys, a lot of fun with this car and see kind of what works the best. I've also got a few ESCs. So either way though, guys, I do got to give a huge thank you to Rlaarlo for sending me out this car. You can check out the description, guys, to links for the car and some of the parts. But as always, guys, if you like this video, give me a big thumbs up, please subscribe, and have a great day.